The space station called 7 floated in the darkness between stars. It was shaped like a giant wheel, spinning slowly to create gravity for the thousands of beings who lived and worked inside. Ships came and went every hour. Traders sold strange goods from distant worlds. Travelers waited for their next transport. It was loud, crowded, and never truly quiet. Had worked on this station for 3 years. She was a cargo inspector, which meant she checked the boxes and containers that came off the ships. It was boring work, but it paid well enough. She was 32 years old with short black hair and tired eyes. Nothing special about her. Just another human doing a job far from Earth. Humans were not very impressive in the galaxy. They had no special powers. They could not read minds like the tall, thin. They did not have hard shells like the insect-like. They were not beautiful like the feathered who moved like dancers and looked down on everyone else. Humans were just humans. Soft, slow, and ordinary. Did not mind being ordinary. She liked her small room on the station. She liked her morning coffee from the human cafe on level 12. She liked watching the stars through the observation windows when her shift ended. It was a simple life, and she was content with it. On this particular day, finished her shift early. She walked through the central plaza, which was the busiest part of the station. The plaza was a huge open space with high ceilings and bright lights. Hundreds of aliens moved through it at any given moment. Some were shopping. Some were eating at the food stalls. Some were just passing through to get to their ships. Walked slowly, in no hurry to get anywhere. She passed a group of merchants arguing about prices. Their hard shells clicked as they gestured with their many arms. She walked past a family floating in their hover tanks. They were like living water, their bodies clear and shifting. They needed special containers to move around on the station. She was thinking about what to eat for dinner when she heard it. A sound, small and high, easy to miss in all the noise of the plaza. Crying. Stopped walking. She turned her head, trying to find where the sound was coming from. It took her a moment, but then she saw it. Near the wall, pressed against a large recycling unit, was a small figure. A child, but not a human child. This child had gray-blue skin that looked soft like rubber. It had 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern on its face. 2 of those eyes were swollen shut, red and puffy from crying. The child wore torn, dirty clothes that might once have been nice. In its small hands it clutched a piece of fabric, holding it tight against its chest. The child was sobbing. Its small body shook with each cry. The sounds it made were strange to human ears, but the meaning was clear. This was the sound of fear, of loneliness, of absolute despair. Looked around the plaza. Surely someone would help. Surely a station officer would come, or maybe someone from the child's own species. The station had thousands of beings. Someone must know this child. Someone must be looking for it. But no one stopped. A merchant walked past the crying child without even slowing down. Its many legs stepped carefully around the small figure, treating it like an obstacle rather than a person. A group of diplomats, their feathers bright and beautiful, actually moved to the other side of the walkway to avoid getting too close. One of them made a face of disgust before looking away. Watched in disbelief. A security officer floated past in its hover tank. She waited for it to stop to do something, but a mechanical voice came from its translator unit. Not our jurisdiction, not our concern. And it kept moving. More aliens passed, and more. Some looked at the child briefly. Most did not even do that. They walked and talked and went about their business as if the crying child did not exist, as if its pain was invisible, as if it did not matter at all. Felt something growing in her chest. It started as confusion, then became disbelief, and then slowly turned into something else, something hot and uncomfortable. She did not have a word for it yet. She just knew that she could not walk away. She moved toward the child, stepping out of the flow of foot traffic. A bumped into her and clicked angrily, but she ignored it. She walked until she was standing in front of the small figure, and then she crouched down slowly, making herself small and unthreatening. Up close, the child looked even worse. Its gray-blue skin was dirty and scratched. There was a bruise on its arm that looked days old. The two swollen eyes had dried tears crusted around them, but the other two eyes, the ones that were still open, looked up with an expression she recognized instantly. Hope. Tiny, fragile, almost dead, but still there, still burning somewhere deep inside. "Hey," said softly. She kept her voice gentle, the way she would talk to a scared animal. "Hey there, it is okay." The child stared at her. Its open eyes were dark purple, almost black, with no white parts like human eyes. They were alien and strange, but the emotion in them was completely understandable. Translator implant, a small device behind her ear, crackled. It was trying to process the child's language. Most common galactic languages were in its database, but this one seemed rare. The implant made strange sounds for a moment, and then finally produced words in native Korean, which she had set as her preference. "Gone," the translation said. The child's voice was high and broken. "They are gone, they left me." Felt her heart squeeze tight in her chest. "Who left you? Where is your family?" "Family," the child repeated, and fresh tears spilled from its open eyes. "Ship, gone, left me here, said I am wrong, said I am broken, said they cannot keep me." The words hit like a punch to the stomach. She understood now. This was not a lost child. This was not an accident. This child had been abandoned, left behind on purpose, thrown away like garbage. She looked around the plaza again at all the aliens walking past. They knew, they all knew, and none of them cared. Something inside made a decision. She did not think about it. She did not consider the consequences. She did not worry about rules or regulations or what species this child belonged to. She just acted. Sat down on the cold metal floor of the plaza, right there in the middle of everything. She crossed her legs and opened her arms wide. "Come here," she said softly. The child looked at her with those strange purple eyes. For a long moment nothing happened. Aliens walked past them, a strange sight, a human woman sitting on the floor with her arms open to a crying alien child. Some stared, most did not. Then the child moved. It was fast, faster than expected. Small arms wrapped around her neck, a small face pressed against her shoulder, and the crying changed. It was still crying, still sobs that shook the little body, but something was different now. There was relief in it, release. Held the child tight. She did not know what species it was. She did not know its name or its age or anything about it. She only knew one thing for certain. She was not going to let go. Around them, the station continued its endless activity. Ships docked and departed. Traders made deals. Travelers hurried to their destinations. 1,000 lives moved forward without pause. And in the middle of it all, a human woman sat on the floor, holding a child that the whole galaxy had decided to forget. The child cried for a long time, did not try to stop it. She just held on, her arms wrapped around the small, trembling body, her hand gently patting the child's back. She remembered her mother doing this for her when she was young and scared. She did not know if it meant the same thing to this alien child, but it was all she had to offer. Slowly, the crying became quieter. The shaking became less. The child pulled back just a little, enough to look its face with those strange purple eyes. Its gray-blue skin was wet with tears. Its nose, which was just 2 small slits, was running. Smiled at the child. She did not know if smiling meant the same thing to this species, but she did it anyway. "There," she said. "That is better. Can you tell me your name?" The translator crackled. The child made a series of sounds that were too complex for the device to handle at first. Then, after a moment, it produced a rough translation. "Little light that flickers." "That is a beautiful name," said, "but it is very long. Can I call you something shorter, just for now?" The child tilted its head. It seemed to be thinking. Then it nodded, a gesture that was surprisingly human. "What is your name?" the child asked through the translator. "I am The child repeated. The word sounded strange in its alien voice, but also sweet. Is short. Yes, it is. Would you like me to give you a short name too, a human name? The child's eyes brightened a little. There was curiosity there now, mixed with the fear and sadness. Yes, a name from. Thought for a moment. She looked at the child's face, at the 4 eyes and the gray-blue skin and the small pointed ears. It was so different from a human child. And yet, when she looked into those eyes, she saw something familiar, something that needed protecting. She said, I will call you, it means something beautiful in my language, like spring flowers. The child said, testing the word. A tiny smile appeared on its face, the first smile had seen. I like it, I am now. Hello. Hello. They sat there on the cold floor of the plaza for several more minutes, was in no hurry to move. She wanted to feel safe, to understand that she was not going to disappear. All around them, the station continued its busy activity. Aliens walked past without stopping. No one offered help. No one even asked if they were okay. Eventually, a voice interrupted them. What are you doing? Looked up. A man was standing there wearing the uniform of a station liaison officer. He was human, with a sharp face and worried eyes. His name tag said. Helping, said simply. Looked at the child in her arms. His expression became complicated. Is that a... Wait, is that a child? I do not know what species is. I just know that needed help. You named it. Felt a flash of anger. Is not in it, is a child. Held up his hands. Okay, I am sorry, but this is not a simple situation. If this child is, then... He stopped, looking around nervously. Come with me, we should not talk about this here. Stood up carefully, keeping close to her. The child's small hand grabbed her shirt and held tight, as if afraid she would disappear. It is okay, whispered. I am not going anywhere, I promise. Led them to a small security office off the main plaza. It was a plain room with metal walls and uncomfortable chairs. A medical scanner sat in the corner, blinking with green lights. Closed the door and turned to face. You need to understand what you are getting into, he said. The Imperium is one of the oldest civilizations in the galaxy, very powerful, very proud, and they have customs that other species find difficult to accept. What kind of customs? Looked at who was still clinging to, the believe in genetic perfection. They have very strict standards for what a child should be. Height, weight, eye symmetry, mental patterns, everything. If a child does not meet those standards, they consider it. He struggled to find the right word. Defective. Felt her stomach turn. Defective. When a child is judged to be imperfect, the family has 2 choices. They can try to fix the problem with medical treatment, which is expensive and often does not work, or they can abandon the child, leave it somewhere far from their home world. It is legal under their laws, accepted by their society. No one questions it. Looked down at, the child's purple eyes looked back at her. This child was abandoned because of some small imperfection. Probably, they do not explain their decisions to outsiders. They just leave the children and go. It happens more often than you would think. Most of the children end up in the lower sectors of stations like this one. Some become workers, some become beggars, some disappear completely. That is horrible. That is galactic civilization, said. His voice was not cruel, just tired, like he had seen this many times before. Every species has its own ways. We do not interfere. The station has no programs to help these children. Shook his head. They made it very clear centuries ago that any interference with their abandoned children would be considered an act of war. No species wants to fight the Imperium, so we look away. We all look away. Understood now why no one in the plaza had stopped. It was not just coldness or cruelty. It was politics. It was fear. The galaxy had decided that these children were not worth protecting, and everyone went along with it. Everyone except her. "What happens now?" she asked. "What happens to if I walk away?" Was quiet for a moment. The station will classify the child as an unregistered vagrant. Security will eventually move it to the lower sectors where there is less oversight. From there, he shrugged. "I do not know, nothing good." Nodded slowly. She had already made her decision back in the plaza, but hearing these words made it stronger, more solid, like a wall being built inside her heart. "I am not walking away," she said. Stared at her. "Think about this. You are a cargo inspector. You work 12-hour shifts. You live in a small room with no space for a child. You do not speak this child's language. You do not know anything about biology or culture or needs. You cannot possibly. I will figure it out. The station will not help you. There are no resources for this. No support. You will be completely on your own." "Then I will be on my own." Opened his mouth to argue more, but something in his face stopped him. He had known her for 3 years. They were not close friends, but he knew her well enough. She was quiet. She was ordinary. She never caused problems or made demands. But right now, looking into her eyes, he saw something else, something hard and unbreakable. "You are serious," he said. "I am." He let out a long breath. Okay. Then let me make some calls. There might be someone who can help. I cannot promise anything, but I will try." "Thank you." He shook his head. "Do not thank me yet. This is going to be much harder than you think." Looked down at, the child had stopped trembling. The small hand was still holding her shirt, but the grip was looser now, more trusting. "Maybe," said, "but some things are worth the difficulty." Left to make his calls, sat in one of the uncomfortable chairs within her lap. The child leaned against her, tired and worn out from crying. Slowly, its eyes began to close. "Sleep," said softly. "I will be here when you wake up, I promise." His purple eyes looked at her one more time. "You will not leave, like they did." The question broke his heart. She pulled the child closer. "No," she said, "I will never leave you, not ever." Closed its eyes and slept. Held the child and watched the door, waiting for whatever came next. She did not know what the future would bring. She did not know if she could really do this, take care of an alien child alone on a space station far from home. But she knew one thing for certain. She had made a promise, and she would keep it no matter what it cost. The next few days were difficult. Made his calls, but the answers were not good. The station administration did not want to get involved. The Imperium did not respond to any messages. The Galactic Welfare Organization said that helping abandoned children was outside their mission. Everyone had an excuse. Everyone had a reason to say no. Did not give up. She took to her small room on level 15. It was not much, just one main room with a bed, a small kitchen area, and a tiny bathroom. There was barely enough space for one person. Now there were two. "This is where you live?" asked, looking around with wide eyes. The child had never been in a human living space before. "This is where we live," corrected, "both of us together." His eyes brightened. That small smile appeared again. Together. The first challenge was food. Did not know what children ate. She searched the station database for information, but there was almost nothing about biology. The species kept their secrets well. All she found was a basic note saying that were omnivores, which meant they could eat both plants and meat. She brought to the station food court and let the child try different things. Some foods made his face twist with disgust. Others were accepted with enthusiasm. After many experiments, they discovered that liked sweet fruits, cooked grains, and a strange purple vegetable from the. "This one," said, pointing at a dish of fried noodles with vegetables. "This one is good." "That is from Earth," said, surprised. "It is called japchae." "Japchae," repeated carefully. "I like Earth food." Laughed. It was the first time she had laughed in days. The second challenge was sleep. Had terrible nightmares. Every night, the child would wake up screaming, crying for a family that had abandoned it, would hold and rock back and forth, singing old Korean songs that her grandmother had sung to her. She did not know if the songs meant anything to, but they seemed to help. Slowly, over many nights, the nightmares became less frequent, started to sleep more peacefully, started to trust that would still be there in the morning. The third challenge was the station itself. Word had spread about what had done. The human community on 7 was small, only about 200 people, and news traveled fast among them. Some of the humans thought was brave. Others thought she was foolish. A few came to help, bringing food or clothes or toys that their own children had. But the alien species on the station were less supportive. Supervisor was a named Bright Crest at dawn. He was tall and covered in golden feathers, with a long neck and sharp eyes. They considered themselves the most civilized species in the galaxy. They looked down on almost everyone, especially humans. "You have been absent from work for 5 days, Bright Crest said when finally came to his office. His voice was cold. "Explain." "I have been taking care of a child, an abandoned child. I am trying to find a way to become its legal guardian." Bright Crest made a sound of disgust. They discard their defective offspring for good reason. They are impure, flawed. Taking one in is a mistake. Felt anger rise in her chest. Is not defective, is a child who needs help. "You named it," Bright Crest's feathers ruffled with disapproval. "You humans are too sentimental. This attachment will only cause you pain." "With respect, sir, my personal life is not your concern. I am here to discuss my work schedule." Bright Crest stared at her for a long moment. "Very well. You may return to half shifts for now, but understand this. If your performance suffers, there will be consequences. The station does not need workers who are distracted by foolish emotional projects." Nodded and left without another word. She was shaking with anger, but she did not let it show. She could not afford to lose her job. Without income, she could not take care of. She returned to her room and found playing with a small toy ship that one of the human families had donated. The child looked up with a happy expression. "Look, it flies." Pressed a button, and the toy ship rose into the air and circled around the room. The child's laughter filled the small space. Felt her anger melt away. This was why she was fighting, this moment, this joy. "That is wonderful. You are very good with it." That evening came to visit. He brought news, but not the kind wanted to hear. "I found an old law," he said, sitting at her small table. "It is called the Galactic Displaced Persons Act. It was written about 300 years ago, during a war that created many refugees. The law says that any sapient being can apply to become a guardian of an abandoned or displaced child, regardless of species." "That sounds helpful." "It would be, except that no one has used this law in over a century. The station's legal system does not know how to process it. The forms are outdated, the procedures are unclear, and there are people who will try to block you." "What people?" Hesitated. "They have a representative on the station. His name is Cold Eye. He has already filed a formal complaint about your actions. He says you are interfering with cultural practices." Felt a chill run down her spine. What does he want? "He wants the child returned to the lower sectors. He says that is where abandoned belong. He says you have no right to change that." "Is not going to the lower sectors." "I know, but Cold Eye has connections. He can make things difficult for you. He can pressure your employer. He can file legal challenges. He can make your life very unpleasant." Thought about Bright Crest and his thinly veiled threats. She thought about the cold stares she received from other aliens when she walked through the station with. She thought about all the obstacles that lay ahead. "Let him try," she said. Looked at her with a mixture of admiration and worry. "You are stubborn." "I am human. It is the same thing." He almost smiled. "I will help you as much as I can, but you need to understand something. This fight is not just about you, and if you succeed, if you actually become the guardian of a child, it will change things. It will prove that someone can stand up to these practices. Other species might start questioning the way things are done. Is that bad? It depends on who you ask. The will hate it. The station administration will be uncomfortable. But there are others, species who have always thought the abandonment practice was wrong but were too afraid to speak up. They might start speaking. Looked over at who had fallen asleep on her bed, still holding the toy ship. The child's face was peaceful. No nightmares tonight. I am not trying to change the galaxy, said quietly. I'm just trying to save one child. Sometimes that is how galaxies change, said. One child at a time. He left shortly after, cleaned up the small room and then sat beside on the bed. She watched the child sleep, watched the small chest rise and fall with each breath. She did not know if she could win this fight. She did not know if the laws would work in her favor. She did not know what Coldeye would do or how far he would go to stop her. But she knew she would not give up. She had made a promise, and humans, for all their faults, were very good at keeping promises. Lay down beside and closed her eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new problems to solve, new enemies to face. But tonight, in this small room on a spinning station between the stars, there was peace. And that was enough. The hearing was held in the station's administrative court on level 3. It was a large circular room with high ceilings and cold white walls. Floating drones recorded everything. Translators hummed in every language known to the galactic community. Stood at one end of the room with beside her. The child was wearing new clothes that the human community had purchased, a simple gray outfit with blue trim. 4 eyes looked around nervously, taking in all the strange beings gathered in the room. Stay close to me, whispered. Everything will be okay. I am scared, whispered back. I know I'm scared too, but we are brave together. Small hand squeezed hers. On the other side of the room stood Coldeye, the representative. He was tall and thin, with dark gray skin and 4 eyes that never blinked. He wore flowing robes of deep purple, the color of nobility. Behind him stood 2 guards, silent and still. Coldeye had been fighting against for 3 weeks. He had filed complaints, written letters, made threats. He had tried to get fired from her job. He had tried to have removed from her care. Every time had fought back, and every time she had held on. Now it came down to this, a final hearing, a decision that would determine his future. The station administrator floated into the room. Her name was Deep Current, and she was a species that resembled giant sea creatures from Earth's ancient oceans. She had 12 limbs that moved constantly, and a voice that sounded like gravel sliding over stone. This hearing is now in session, Deep Current announced. The matter before us is the guardianship petition filed by of Earth for the minor child currently known as Species. Coldeye, representative of the Imperium, you may speak first. Coldeye stepped forward. His translator produced words in a smooth, polished voice. Administrator, this matter should not even be before us. The human has no standing to make this petition. Under law, discarded offspring are not persons. They have no rights. They require no guardians. They simply exist until they do not. Felt flinch beside her. The human claims to invoke the Galactic Displaced Persons Act, Coldeye continued. But this law was written for refugees of war, not for discarded genetic material. The Imperium formally protests this misuse of galactic legislation. Deep Current's many limbs shifted. Your protest is noted. Of Earth you may respond. Stepped forward. Her heart was beating fast, but she kept her voice steady. Administrator, the Galactic Displaced Persons Act does not specify that the displaced person must be a war refugee. It says that any sapient being may petition for guardianship of any abandoned or displaced child, is sapient, was abandoned. Therefore, the law applies. The child was not abandoned, Cold Eye interrupted. The child was properly disposed of according to cultural traditions. Disposed of, repeated, her voice cold, like garbage. Like genetic waste that serves no purpose. Turned to face Cold Eye directly. This child is not waste, this child speaks, this child thinks, this child has hopes and dreams and fears, this child has a name, is a person. A defective person, Cold Eye said, which in our culture is worse than none at all. The room was silent. Every being present was watching, waiting to see what would happen next. Deep Current spoke. I have reviewed the evidence submitted by both parties. The Imperium's position is clear. This child was legally discarded under their laws, and they have no interest in reclaiming it. The human's position is also clear. She wishes to become the legal guardian of the child. You cannot allow this, Cold Eye said quickly. If you rule in the human's favor, you will set a precedent. Other species will begin interfering with our practices. Our sovereignty will be undermined. Deep Current's massive form shifted. I am aware of the implications. The Imperium will not look kindly on this station if... Cold Eye, Deep Current interrupted, her voice sharp. You have made your position clear. Now be silent. The representative closed his mouth. Even he knew better than to anger an administrator. Deep Current turned her attention to, Human, I have a question for you. Yes, administrator. Why are you doing this? This child is not of your species. It has no connection to you. By taking it in, you have made yourself an enemy of the Imperium. You have risked your job, your reputation, your future on this station. Other members of your species would not do this. So why do you? Was quiet for a moment. She had thought about this question many times over the past 3 weeks. She had tried to find a logical answer, a reasonable explanation. But in the end, there was only one truth. Because was crying, she said, and no one stopped. Deep Current's many eyes focused on her. That is your answer, because the child was crying. Yes, when I saw alone in that plaza, I saw something wrong. A wrong that I could fix. I am not a powerful person. I am not rich or important. I cannot change galactic politics or convince them to be different, but I could stop. I could hold a crying child. I could say, you are not alone. Looked at who was staring at her with wide purple eyes. Humans have a strange belief. We believe that every person matters. Not because of what they can do, not because of their genetic perfection, but simply because they exist. Every life has value. Every child deserves love. It does not make sense to most other species. It is not logical or efficient, but it is who we are. The room was very quiet. I am not asking the station to change galactic law, continued. I am not asking them to stop their practices. I am only asking for one thing. Let me take care of this child. Let me give a home. Let me prove that there is another way. Cold Eye made a sound of contempt. Sentimental nonsense. Maybe, said, but look at this child who your people threw away. 3 weeks ago could not sleep without screaming from nightmares. 3 weeks ago did not know how to smile. Now look. She crouched down beside, are you happy? Looked at her, then at the assembled crowd, then back at her. The child's small face showed fear, but also something else, something that had not been there before. Yes, said softly, with I am happy. Stood up, that is why I am doing this. That smile, that happiness, that is worth any risk. Deep Current was silent for a long moment. Her 12 limbs moved in complex patterns. The whole room waited. Finally she spoke. I have reached my decision. The Galactic Displaced Persons Act is old, but it is valid law. The human has met all requirements for a guardianship petition. The child meets the definition of a displaced minor. There are no legal grounds to deny this petition. Cold Eye stepped forward. Administrator. I am not finished. Deep Current's voice was like thunder. Cold Eye, the Imperium chose to abandon this child. You gave up all claims when you left it on this station. You do not get to decide what happens next. She turned her great form toward. Of Earth, I hereby grant your petition. From this moment forward, you are the legal guardian of the child known as. This station will recognize your rights and responsibilities as a parent. This is my ruling. Felt tears forming in her eyes. She looked down at, who was staring at her with confusion and hope. What does it mean? Asked. Knelt down and pulled the child into a hug. It means you are my family now, forever. Small arms wrapped around her neck. The child was crying again, but these were different tears, happy tears. Across the room, Cold Eye's face was dark with anger. This is not over, he said. The Imperium will remember this insult. Let them remember, said, still holding. I am not afraid. Cold Eye turned and left, his guards following behind him. Deep Current watched them go, then turned back to, Human, you have chosen a difficult path. I hope you are prepared for what comes next. I am ready, said. We shall see. The administrator floated toward the door, then paused. For what it is worth, I believe you made the right choice. Your species is strange, but there is something admirable in your strangeness. She left. The room began to empty. Stayed where she was, holding close. The child's tears had stopped. Now there was just peace. Said quietly, Yes. Thank you for stopping. Smiled and kissed the top of his head. Always, I will always stop for you. 6 months had passed since the hearing. Woke up to the sound of laughter. It was a strange sound, a mix of human giggles and chirps, and it was coming from the main room of their quarters. She sat up and looked around. The room was different now. They had moved to a larger space on level 12, with 2 bedrooms and a real kitchen. The walls were decorated with drawings that had made at the station school. Pictures of stars and ships and 2 figures holding hands, one tall with dark hair, one small with gray-blue skin. Got out of bed and walked to the doorway. Was sitting on the floor, playing with a group of toys that had been gifts from various human families on the station. The child had grown in the past 6 months, taller and stronger. The scars around the once damaged eyes had faded to thin silver lines, and the smile on his face was no longer rare. Good morning, said, looking up. You slept late, I made breakfast. Looked at the kitchen counter. There was a plate with some kind of food on it. It looked like a mix of earth noodles and vegetables, arranged in a pattern that was supposed to be a flower. You cooked? Asked, surprised. The cooking machine helped, but I pressed the buttons myself. Smiled and walked over to the counter. The food actually looked decent. She tried a bite and was pleased to find it tasted good too. This is wonderful, thank you. Beamed with pride. I wanted to do something nice because today is special. Is it? You forgot. Looked hurt for a moment, then saw that was teasing. Today is the anniversary, 6 months since you became my family. Laughed and pulled into a hug. I did not forget, I just wanted to see if you remembered. I remember everything about that day. The room with the cold walls, the big who made the decision, Cold Eye looking angry, made a face. I was so scared. I was scared too. Really, you did not look scared. That is because I was trying to be brave for you. Thought about this. Can you be scared and brave at the same time? Yes, that is exactly what brave means. Being scared but doing the right thing anyway. They sat together and ate breakfast. The station's artificial sunlight grew brighter through the windows, simulating morning on Earth. Outside, the endless activity of 7 continued, ships coming and going, thousands of beings living their lives. After breakfast, went to get ready for school. The station had a small education center where children of all species learned together. At first, the other children had been uncertain about. They had a bad reputation and an abandoned was seen as something shameful. But children are often kinder than adults. Within a few weeks had made friends. A small human boy named, a young female named Soft Feather, even a baby who could not speak yet but followed around everywhere. Walked to the education center holding hands as they went through the corridors. Other beings passed them and some stared. A human and a child together was still an unusual sight, but the stares were different now. Less hostile, more curious. Word had spread beyond 7. The story of the human woman who had stopped for a crying alien child had traveled through the galactic news networks. Some species praised her, others criticized her. The Imperium had issued an official statement calling her actions inappropriate and unwelcome, but they had not done anything more. More importantly, other things had started to happen. On a distant station called Orion's Rest, a couple had adopted an abandoned child. On Earth's moon colony, a petition was being signed to create a support program for abandoned alien children. A philosopher had written an essay asking why his species had never questioned the practice. Small changes, tiny movements, but movements nonetheless. Did not think about these things often. She was too busy with her daily life, working her shifts, taking care of, learning how to be a mother to a child from a completely different species. But sometimes, late at night, she thought about what had said all those months ago. Sometimes galaxies change one child at a time. At the education center, hugged her goodbye and ran inside to join the other children. Watched through the window as found and started talking excitedly about something, probably showing off the new toy ship that had been a gift from one of the miners on level 7. She is doing well. Turned, was standing there, holding 2 cups of coffee from the human cafe. She is, agreed, taking one of the cups. Thank you. I heard something interesting today, sipped his coffee. The Imperium is facing internal questions. Some of their younger generation is starting to ask why they abandoned so many children. It is a small movement barely noticed by most, but it exists. Because of, partly, the story made some of them think differently. For the first time in centuries, they are wondering if their way is the only way. Looked back at the education center. Through the window, she could see laughing with the other children. Does not know any of this, about the politics and the movements and the debates. Does she need to know? No, just needs to be a child, to learn and play and grow. Everything else is for adults to worry about. Nodded. You have done a remarkable thing. Most people would have walked past that crying child in the plaza. You stopped. And because you stopped, the galaxy is a little bit different. I just did what felt right. That is exactly my point, smiled. Humans are strange. You do what feels right even when logic says it is impossible, even when the whole galaxy is against you, and somehow it works. He finished his coffee and left for his duties. Stayed for a few more minutes, watching the children play before going to her own work. The day passed like any other day. Inspected cargo containers and filled out reports. She ate lunch in the cafeteria with some of her human. She thought about what to make for dinner and whether needed new shoes. Normal things, ordinary things, the kind of things that make up a life. After her shift, she picked up from the education center. The child ran to her with arms open wide and lifted up and spun around once, making the child laugh. How was school? Good, we learned about stars today. The teacher said our sun is just one of billions and billions. Is that true? It is true. Then there must be so many planets, so many places. Eyes were wide with wonder. Maybe someday I can visit them. Maybe you can. They walked home together, hand in hand, through the corridors of the spinning station. Outside the great windows, the stars hung in the blackness of space, endless and eternal. That night after dinner and bath time and a bedtime story sat beside its bed. The child was almost asleep, eyes closing slowly. Yes. Thank you for giving me a name. Smiled and brushed the child's hair gently. I love your name, it suits you. What does it mean again? Spring, new beginnings, hope. Was quiet for a moment, then, is that what I am, hope? Leaned down and kissed forehead. Yes, that is exactly what you are. You are my hope, and I will never stop being grateful that I found you." "You did not find me," said softly, eyes finally closing. "You stopped for me, that is different." Stayed there for a long time, watching her child sleep. Outside, the great wheel of seven continued its endless rotation, carrying thousands of beings through the darkness between the stars. Most of those beings would never know about the small miracle that had happened here. They would go about their lives, following their customs, never questioning the way things had always been done. But some things had changed. Somewhere in the galaxy, a child was safe. A child had a home. A child had been given a name and a future and a mother who loved her. And sometimes that was enough. Sometimes one person stopping, one hand reaching out, one heart opening, was enough to light a fire that would burn across the stars. Stood up and walked to the window. The galaxy stretched out before her, vast and ancient and full of mysteries. She did not know what the future would bring. She did not know if the changes would last or if the old ways would return. She did not know if other abandoned children would be saved or if they would ever truly change. But she knew one thing. She had stopped. And because she had stopped, everything was different. That was the human way. Illogical, emotional, stubborn, refusing to walk past, refusing to look away, refusing to let the darkness win. Smiled at the stars. Somewhere behind her, made a small happy sound in her sleep. The galaxy was vast and cold and indifferent. But in this small room there was warmth, there was love, there was family. And that made all the difference.